guys! So today I'm going to talk through the process that I went through to get my working holiday visa in Japan. I'm leaving tomorrow, so obviously the application was successful. I really hope this is helpful for you, and if it is, then please subscribe. So firstly, I've got my job over there. I did this by just searching on Facebook for jobs in ski resorts because I'd spoken to a few customers and they had met their wife there doing a ski season. So I basically applied to do one of those and I got the job in Japan basically. In order to get your visa, you do have to fit a few specifications. Obviously in my case you have to be from the UK and possess a full valid passport that does not expire during the duration of your stay over there. Secondly, you need to be aged between 18 and 30 years old. You cannot be accompanied by a spouse or children unless the spouse has a working holiday visa too. You need to possess a certain amount of funds in order to apply for a working holiday visa. So if you have an outbound flight already booked, you need £1,500 in your bank account. If you do not have a flight booked, you need to have £2,500 plus basically proof that you can sustain yourself over there. You need to intend to leave Japan by the end of your stay, and you need to intend to holiday or working holiday over there for longer than 6 months. If you're from the UK, you can stay in Japan, I think it's visa free or with just a holiday visa for 6 months. So obviously you need to state that you'll be longer than that, otherwise you'll just get a holiday visa obviously. You have to have not been issued a working holiday visa previously unless you have been given one and could not go due to an unavoidable circumstance. And finally, you need to be in good health. So once you have all of those requirements, you're able to apply for the visa basically. The first thing I actually did when I knew I was getting this visa was just do a load of research on exactly what I needed, what documentation I needed to fill in, and all of this stuff. And in doing that, I came across this website that I found really helpful. I will link it below. It is from 2012, so it's a little outdated. There's a few things that are outdated, but most of it was just really, really helpful. And on that website, one of the first things they tell you to do is basically just call up the embassy to see if there are still visas available, as they only give 1,000 visas a year to British citizens. In order to apply for a working holiday visa, you have to go to the embassy. For me, it was in London. They also have an embassy in Edinburgh, I believe. So if you're from Scotland or the north of England, you would go to the one in Edinburgh. And appointments are made 3 weeks in advance. I couldn't book one in November because I had to wait basically until the end of the week when the next 3 weeks would go into November. I don't know if that makes any sense. But basically, I had to wait until a certain date which was 3 weeks away from when I could apply in November. And when I called up the embassy, she told me to book my appointment and a few days later and do it at midnight so that I'd be able to get the slot. And I did this. I set my alarm for midnight. I got up, I went on the website and I tried to apply for the visa and nothing came up. Went to sleep, got up at 9 in the morning. The first thing I did was go on the website and try and book a slot, and there was one available for me for, I think it was 11 o'clock in London, so I booked that straight away then. And once I had that booking, that basically meant that I could continue with all of the documents necessary. The first thing you need, like I said before, is just a valid UK passport, and the second thing is a completed visa application form. So you can get these just by searching on the embassy. If you just search into Google something like getting a working holiday visa for Japan from the UK, something will come up, click on it, and eventually you'll get onto this page and you can get a visa application form on there. Filling in the application form is fairly self-explanatory. Most of that stuff you could just put in without having a problem. Anything that you can't answer, I just put N/A, so no answer. I did this for me personally, like current or professional job. I don't have one, so I put non-answer. For guarantor or reference in Japan, and also for invited to Japan. And then for the name of or address of where I intend to stay, I just Google searched a hostel in Tokyo and put in the address and the phone number for that. And for the airline carrier, I just made a random one up. One that I put in was Shanghai Airlines. I think on their website they put in Cebu Pacific, or just Cebu, I can't remember what it's called. So yeah, just make it up unless you do actually obviously have a flight booked and all of that. You can put in the proper information. Just put in something that is accurate and would make sense. You also need one passport-sized photo. Sorry, on the Japanese embassy website, it says 35 to 45 millimeters. However, on the website that I looked at, it said 45 to 45 millimeters. I just went into one of those booths in the supermarket a day before I was meant to go into the embassy, and just paid to get passport photos in there. You also need to give in your CV. So I just edited my CV and put in a little section at the bottom that just said hobbies, and talked about how I like to be on the water, I really like music, and something else, and just put in a little bit more about me and what I enjoy doing. The next thing would be the itinerary, or the outline of intended activities. Now, when you're applying for your working holiday visa, it is a working holiday visa, but there is emphasis on holiday and less so much on the working. When you're doing your itinerary, just keep that in mind, because if you say, I'm going to be working here, I'm going to be working here, I'm going to be working here, then they're less likely, I believe, they're less likely to allow you into the country. I was honestly panicking because the start of my itinerary says the first 4 months I will be working, and I was really worried that they wouldn't allow me in because of that, even though it's not actually that long still. I was just a bit worried about it. In my itinerary, which I will do a video on how I researched and how I wrote my itinerary, but in my itinerary I just put in a load of information of all the different sites I wanted to see. It's chock full of temples, beaches, mountains I want to hike, galleries, museums I want to go to. And this was great because it allowed me to do a load of research and figure out exactly what I want to do when I go to Japan. And also, like, yeah, it kind of came hand in hand with researching what I'm doing once I get over there, and with writing my itinerary. I've read some example itineraries, and some people wrote that they had friends over there, or they had family over there, whatever it could be. So mention that if you have it, but like I said, I don't have any contacts over there other than the job that I'm starting, so I just wrote a load about all the touristy type things I want to do to kind of balance out the fact that I will be working as well. You also need basically a personal statement, so a written reason of why you're applying for a working holiday visa. As I said before, when you're writing your personal statement, again, the emphasis needs to be on why you want to work over there, but why you also want a holiday. So if you want a holiday in Japan, you can do that for 6 months if you're from the UK. So basically write about why you want to work there specifically. For me, I wrote about how working just completely helps you just to immerse yourself in the culture to a whole new level, and I do genuinely believe that is true. Working is very different to being a tourist. It allows you to really make friendships, make those connections, and just honestly meet people that you're going to be friends with for the rest of your life. I do believe it's a very life-changing experience, because that is how I had when I worked in New Zealand. But yeah, when I wrote my personal statement, I basically on a little Google Doc wrote the reasons. So for me it was history, art, culture, the landscape, all of that. And then under each of those things I went into ChatGPT and I searched, write me a paragraph on why I'm really excited to go to Japan because I'll be able to immerse myself in the culture, and ChatGPT gave me this massive paragraph that I then copy and pasted and like cut out a load and made it sound human rather than robotic, and used that. I know ChatGPT is probably cheating, but it just helped me a little bit. I did not copy and paste ChatGPT. I would not recommend doing that. You will sound robotic, you will not sound human, and it will sound very weird. But just using that did help me a little bit, just to kind of write my whole paragraph. So I did that for every single thing. I also searched like with examples of places I want to go to. And then yeah, when I wrote my personal statement, I wrote about how I want to go see the history because of this, and I'll experience that in this place. And also experience that in this place. The next thing is evidence that you have either a onward ticket or the funds. So you need evidence for the funds, whether it's 1,500 or 2,500, and also the outward ticket if that's the route that you're taking. So I basically printed out the bank statements for my previous 3 months. When I went into the embassy then, they asked me for more bank statements. So I would say maybe do print out bank statements for the previous 5 months, just so you don't have to go through the added process of what I had to do, which was fine, not a problem. It was just make things easier for you. So that's all of the documentation that you need to bring in with you when you go into the embassy. You need the bank statements, your passport photo, personal statement, itinerary, and your CV. So finally, it was the process of going to the embassy. Now for me, I'm very fortunate. I have family that live in London, so I came and stayed with them. I popped over to the embassy in the morning, and basically you walk in. They had one of those little scanny things, so I put my bag in there. They put it through the x-ray machine, gave it back to me. I walked in, then they gave me a little ticket from a machine. I sat down barely 30 seconds. I was back up again and walking into one of the booths, and they basically just asked for all of these documents. I gave them all of my documents, and then, like I said before, I needed to give them more of my bank statements, and I also needed to give them basically an email or a letter from my father explaining that I'd been given money on my birthday. So he'd given me a decent chunk of money on my birthday. They basically needed him to prove that it was for me and that money was legitimately mine. So I messaged my dad. I said, you need to give him an email explaining that this money is mine and that it's a gift from you, my father, for my birthday when I was turning 21. So he did that, and he sent that off whilst I was in the embassy. Went back up again. She said everything's fine. She gave me this piece of paper that had my, I think it was like a visa application number, and this was what I would have to give back into them once I go to pick up my passport. Yeah, the lady basically just checked through everything. She asked me when I'd last gone on holiday and made sure that everything on it made sense, basically. She did say to me as well, she read the itinerary and she goes, oh, so you've got a job? And I said, yes. And she said, can you give us the email, please? I said, yeah. So I emailed, she gave me an email address, and I emailed her the email that I had been using to contact my job over there. Whether or not they emailed them or did anything with that information, I'm not sure yet. That was the point where I was panicking a little bit, because I was like, ooh, she's picked up on the fact that the first 4 months will be working. But yeah, it was fine in the end, obviously, because I've been given my visa. So yeah, I sent off, I gave him my documents, I gave her any other documents I needed, and she gave me this piece of paper in return, this slip in return, and that was it. I was in and out in 20 minutes top. I'd read up on it, and I knew it wasn't going to be more than that, but I still thought it would be. I was panicking a little bit, I'm not going to lie, but it was actually just a really, really smooth process, and everybody in there was really lovely as well. My dad had then forwarded me an email the next day from the embassy saying, thank you, we've considered, like, we've seen this letter, we're going to go through with the process. Anna will be able to pick up her visa the next Friday onwards, so 7 days after I'd applied. Again, I'm very fortunate. I have friends and family in London who are very happy to go pick up the visa for me. So I gave my cousin the slip. It was a slip that I would give into the embassy in order to pick up my passport and any other documents. So this could be my visa or not if the application had been denied. So my cousin went over, picked it up, got my visa, and then called me and basically gave me the news, which was one of the most stressful kind of phone calls of my life, I'm not gonna lie. But it was very exciting. Another thing, when you apply, so one of the websites I looked at, the visa said it was £23, it's in cash. When I applied, it was actually £18 cash. So I transferred my cousin £18, and it was only when she went to pick up my passport and my visa that she had to pay the £18 cash. Another thing is the website that I used primarily tells you that you can take a prepaid envelope and use that to send it back to your address. This is not the case any longer, so you do have to go up and pick it up in person, or ask someone to pick it up for you. And if you do get someone to pick it up for you, give them a signed permission slip explaining that I have given permission for this person to pick up these documents for me. And obviously, it's your passport. Get someone you trust. And if you don't have anyone you trust, do it yourself. You do not want this document to be lost. I obviously do not have to explain why. It's just real big emphasis on make sure it's somebody you trust to get these documents for you. And yeah, that was basically the entire process I had to go through in order to get my working holiday visa. I will say that I know that afterwards I need to apply for a resident registration. I think I just do that at a local office or something in the town, so I'm just going to do that in Nozawa Onsen, where I'm staying. This is Anna coming at you from Nozawa Onsen. In terms of the residency card, when I walked into the airport and gave them my passport to be checked, they sorted me out a residency card there once I arrived in Japan, and that had my residence set as the hostel I stayed at, which was Noved Hostel Classic. And then once we came up here, we had an orientation day yesterday. They just gave us a load of forms to fill in, and then they just took my residency card and took it all to the registration office so they can sort it out for us, and then we've just got to go pick it up in a few days, I think. So super simple process. Yeah, just go down to post office, I think, get the forms, fill them in, and then they'll go pick it up a few days later. And also this visa is for just a single entry into Japan, and if you want to leave the country, you do have to apply for a re-entry permit. I do not know where or how you would do this. I'm sure there's so many websites out there that will help you with this. So that was my visa, that was my process of getting my working holiday visa in Japan. It was a pretty long process considering it does take 3 weeks between you booking the appointment and the appointment. I really hope this was helpful for you, and if you want any of the travel advice, tips, or if you want to see any of my crazy ass adventures, I have no idea what I'm getting myself into, it'd be really great if you guys subscribed. Thank you so much and have a lovely day.